to do that. And I think I was in the middle of saying that it's actually it isn't our decision on whether it will be 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever it might be. It could be none of the above, because it is absolutely the government's decision. And they will let us know in due course in the summer what their decision is. Is there any member that wants to comment on the paper today? No. So could I see a show of hands then, please, to confirm the vote? Thank you. That's unanimous. We then move on to the next report of the evening, which is the award of the rent support grant to a voluntary sector organisation. And that's the Cabinet member responsible for finance and assets, Councillor Jeffries. Hand over to you.
Thank you, Leader. Colleagues, yes, this report highlights another exciting opportunity to support a valued local organisation, which obviously strengthens community life in our town. I mean, the administration, as you know, is committed to helping the voluntary and community groups thrive. One way we do this is by offering the rent support to our community organisations that lease council property. And this provides real benefit to local people. This report looks at an application from Cheltenham Saracens FC based at St Peter's Recreation Ground. And they play a really active role in bringing residents together through sport, social activities and opportunities for young people specifically, which I think is really exciting. Clearly, the report explains how the application has been assessed, focusing on the positive impact the club has on wellbeing, inclusion and community spirit. It also sets out the recommendation to offer a 50% rent subsidy, helping the club continue to its important work while ensuring fair and transparent use of council resources. Overall, the aim is to celebrate local community contributions in our town and support groups that make Cheltenham a better and stronger place to live. So I commend the report to you. Thank you.
Any member got any questions? Councillor questions or comments? Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you so much, Councillor Jeffries, for bringing this report to us today. I was really pleased to read it, and I think this is absolutely something that the council should look to support. And Saracens Football Club just are brilliant in the local community, not only with their sporting activities of football for all age groups, but also the fact they do so much in the community. Every year they run a fireworks night, spectacular fireworks night, massively packed full of people, the entire ground. In the summer, they run summer like fairs with bouncy castles, you name it. They also really care about the immediate local community in terms of litter picking in the park and sort of sorting out the hedges and things to make it feel safer. So they really are a hugely valuable organisation in the heart of St Peter's, and I'm really, really super that this, if we all approve it today, this grant is going to be awarded. So thanks.
Any other member got any questions? Could I see a show of hands then, unless Councillor Jeffrey, no, he doesn't, to approve it. That's a majority approved. I want to just take us back to the first agenda item, because really what I should have done, because we're clear what we are supporting, but there are recommendations here for Cabinet. So I would just like to make sure that it's crystal clear that, so what our job is we decide to support one of the following local government reorganisation business cases as part of the submission to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. So A, a single unitary for Gloucestershire as detailed in the business case in Appendix 3, a 2 unitary East and West Gloucestershire as detailed in the business case in Appendix 4, and a 2 unitary Greater Gloucester and Gloucestershire as detailed in the business case in Appendix 5. And that you delegate to myself as leader of the council in consultation with the chief executive to finalise and agree the joint letter and submission alongside other Gloucestershire councils and submit to MHCLG on or before November the 28th, 2025 deadline. So could I please say...
You need to clarify that you're choosing option B.
No, I know, yeah. So can I... My understanding, given council vote yesterday and that we will be supporting a two-unitary for East and West Gloucestershire as a cabinet. Could I see a show of hands to clearly... Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Gareth. That's where you have your chief exec sat beside you to tell you to do it properly. Read out the words. So that takes us on to the next agenda item, which is the safeguarding policy, and that's the report of Councillor Atherston.
Thank you, Leader. Our safeguarding policy continues to cover both children and vulnerable adults, as well as the Council's wider community safeguarding duties. The policy was last updated in December 2023, and since then we have brought the services of Cheltenham Borough Homes back in-house, so have taken the opportunity to update with consideration for all of the Council's housing services as well as. It's a standard process that we have to update our safeguarding policy to include national best practice guidance and to better reflect the strategic framework for safeguarding in Gloucestershire, including Gloucestershire's Safeguarding Children's Partnership and Gloucestershire's Safeguarding Adult Board. The training and associated guidance addresses issues including race, culture, disability, sexuality, gender, religion and age, ensuring the Council applies the policy without prejudice or discrimination. The policy also supports the Council in its public sector quality duty by ensuring Council services are safe for all communities. The recent updates include role descriptions for both the Gloucestershire Safeguarding Children's Partnership and the Gloucestershire Safeguarding Adults Board, as well as the overarching Make Every Adult Matter strategy and the Gloucestershire One Plan for children and young people. The roles and responsibility section has also been amended to include the establishment of a corporate safeguarding group. The group will consist of key officers responsible for safeguarding, as well as representatives from across Council services. This will allow discussion of concerns, dissemination of best practice, and additional support for staff. The group will also contribute to the annual safeguarding self-assessment audits required by the Council. Images of children and young people in promotional materials across Council service areas already seeks parental consent to do so. However, we now have specific guidance on image usage and where parental consent has not been obtained, such as in the use of CCTV regarding community safety concerns. The policy now also includes specific reference to receiving an escalation in relation to Council services and outlines the staff that should be involved at each stage. The two recommendations are to adopt the updated safeguarding policy and to seek approval for delegated authority to update our policy as soon as Gloucestershire's latest Safeguarding Children's Partnership guidance and training becomes available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atherston. Any member got any questions or comments that they wish to make to this report? No, I mean, the only comment I'd say is that it is incredibly important that we actually do not just have policies that sit on the shelf, but those policies get reviewed as and when is necessary, 2, 3, 5 years, whatever it might be. But there's no point in having a policy that sits on the shelf. They should be living documents. So thank you for bringing this to Cabinet tonight. Can I see a show of hands to approve that, please? Thank you all. That's unanimous. So we then move on to the community infrastructure. The next agenda item is agenda item 8. That's actually the report of myself. And again, this is rather like a policy. Thank you, Richard, both. So the community infrastructure levy host authority terms of reference, again, rather like a policy, you know, our terms of reference should be reviewed to make sure they're still aligned with all the policies that are necessary. So we already had a policy, but what we're we're doing is to say that actually I'm asking you tonight to retain the appointment as the host authority for the community infrastructure levy should be Tewkesbury Borough Council. And the terms of reference remain as approved by the council in January last year, other than the minor points of clarification, which you can see in Appendix 6. So any member wish to comment on that agenda item? No? Could I please see a show of hands then to approve that? Thank you very much. Thank you, Tracy. So the next agenda item is agenda item 9, and that is the notification of decisions made by the Joint Community Infrastructure Levy. And again, that is my report. Members will notice that actually this goes back quite a way in time. The report detailed enough for everybody to know what they need to say or do, or what the reasons for the recommendation. So the purpose of the report is not to debate the decision, because the SIL Joint Committee has that decision-making power, but we have to note the allocation and the decisions made and facilitate the scrutiny of those provisions. So we're not voting on it per se today, but we do have to note it. And does any member have any comments that they wish to make? No? Could I see a show of hands to say that we have duly noted this? Thank you all. Agenda item 10 is the review of the Statement of Licensing Policy, and that's the report of Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. Our previous policy was updated in 2020 and should be routinely reviewed and updated every 5 years. This is because the policy should reflect latest primary legislation, case law, and national guidance. However, there have been no significant changes of late. So, aside from general tidying up and updates, the following notable changes are proposed. The first is an additional section for information on personal licences and annual fees. And the next, a new section on women's safety and wider vulnerabilities. This new policy statement also sits alongside the work of our evening and nighttime economy working group. And it's the aspiration of that group to implement a charter for businesses to sign up to demonstrate their commitment to providing safe spaces for all. And this work also supports our ongoing Purple Flag accreditation, which we've held now for 10 consecutive years, that recognises that our town is thriving and a safe place. As such, this policy now includes references to the Evening and Nighttime Economy Charter and also our Purple Flag accreditation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atherstone. Any comments from any members? Councillor Pinniger.
Thank you, Leader. It also includes the changes for the taxi licensing, is that correct? No, that's in a different paper. Okay, thanks.
I can't see any member indicating, so can I ask for a show of hands, please, that we approve those? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. The next agenda item is agenda item 11, which is the review of taxi and private hire licensing policy. Councillor Atherstone, it's your report.
Thank you, Leader. So as we know, we last updated our taxi and private hire licensing policy in July this year with a proposal to review the 2030 emissions policy, which has now been conducted and concluded. The new proposed policy reflects that and is the same as Stroud District Council and Tewkesbury Borough Council. Therefore, 3 out of the 6 district councils in Gloucestershire will have a consistent policy approach to emission standards, and this will minimise the possible issue we had previously of licence shopping. Moving forward, however, we are committed to keeping this approach under review, working alongside not only our licence trade, the council's climate team, but also Climate Leadership Gloucestershire, and also plan to work alongside cabinet leads and other neighbouring authorities. It's also worth mentioning that with local government reorganisation on the horizon, it's also sensible to adopt a similar approach to neighbouring authorities that have the highest standard in terms of emissions. As we know, we're already on our journey to be carbon neutral by 2030. As such, we will review our vehicle emissions policy to consider whether a move to EV or ULEV, which is ultra-low emission vehicles, is appropriate on the 1st of April 2028. So EVs are pure electric vehicles with zero tailpipe emissions, whereas ULEVs are currently defined as having less than 75 grams of CO2 per kilometre from the tailpipe. We recognise that taxis and the private hire trade are people's livelihoods, creating employment and providing services to residents and visitors of our town, supporting safety and economic activity. As such, we will continue to work to reduce barriers for licensed taxis and private hire vehicles operating in Cheltenham to be zero emissions by 2030, in line with the borough's Climate Emergency Action Plan. If required, further policy reviews will be undertaken in April 2030 and possibly again in April 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atherstone. Members, any questions? Councillor Pinniger.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, both myself and the officers and the climate team worked quite hard on this one to try and get a policy together that would help the taxi industry adapt to zero emissions by 2030. And then I believe that that's been distributed with Tewkesbury and Gloucester, and between the three authorities we've managed to come to an agreement, which is fantastic. I'm also on the Climate Leadership Gloucestershire. I'm the Vice Chair at the moment, and I'll be taking this to them and seeing if we can get Cotswolds to join us, although I think they might have a very small taxi fleet. But it is really good news that we've got it there. The one thing I'd like to note as well is that I'd called for a review in 2029 and realised that that was too late. So I'm really pleased to see further review in 2028, at which point I expect the price of EVs to have come down way below ICE vehicles, internal combustion engines, and be the most viable economic vehicle to run a taxi, in fact, because they should be cheaper and easier. And, you know, they require less maintenance, it costs less to fill them up, and the range should have improved vastly by 2028. So hopefully we will start to see a landslide, a waterfall effect, where people convert over from the other, you know, polluting vehicles into electric. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pinniger. Yeah, I absolutely agree, and thank you for your support. You know, as well as working with other cabinet leads, obviously work with our own cabinet to ensure that we are communicating as best we can with the remaining neighbouring authorities that don't yet have the same policy approach. And I think, as we both know, the technologies of electric vehicles is advancing annually. And as you say, that price point is coming down and the range is really, really increasing. So I think it's wise that we continue to monitor on a regular basis, because the growth and change is happening so quickly, and already the trade are opting for much lower emissions and in some cases electric vehicles. So it's just fair for us to work hand in hand with the trade also to support them on this journey. Thank you.
Any other member? I can't see any other member, so could I see a show of hands to approve that, please? Thank you very much, that's unanimous. The next report is agenda item 12, and that's the corporate enforcement policy. It's, as ever, Emma's always incredibly efficient and gets things to me really early, which is great, so thank you, Emma. the enforcement policy speaks for itself, but there are a few minor tweaks and changes which actually can be covered off I can see too because if you approve it tonight, the delegation, just to make minor changes. So there's minor changes to section 10, literally just half a dozen words, and also 16, 2 in 16. And basically those really just to align with Tewkesbury Borough Council's enforcement policy as well. And that was the advice of one legal that came back. Not late, but we just needed to consult with Tewkesbury, and those are the changes that have come forward. So has anybody got any questions on the report itself? No? So subject to, could I ask then, yes, Richard?
Just to say that I've seen the amendments, as have some other colleagues, and they look fine. They just better protect the council than the policy did before they were added. Yeah.
Thank you. So I have talked through with the Cabinet the policies of what they are, and I'm not going to read them out unless Cabinet would like me to, because in the recommendation, the delegation is given, if you approve the policy itself with the second delegation, delegated decision is that alongside the Chief Executive, can make any minor amendments before the report is published. Are you all happy to support that? If I could see a show of hands, please. Thank you, that's unanimous. We then move on to agenda item 13, which is the statement of community involvement, which is the report of Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Leader. The avid viewers amongst you will see that I've been turfed out of my usual seat, but I'll try anyway. This agenda item is here before us this evening to allow us to adopt this updated statement of community involvement. It sets out the community can engage with the planning system, or how the communities can engage with the planning system. It is also a statutory requirement to review SCIs every 5 years. Now, the last time this SCI was published was 2023. However, along with our two partners, we are all progressing the strategic and local plan. And although each of the three councils all have their own SCIs, it was felt that, sorry, I'll try to compose myself. It was felt that this was an opportune time to ensure that the three SCIs are all aligned in the way that they reference the SLP, including the way that we engage and consult. Now, this report outlines just Cheltenham Borough Council's SCI, and once adopted, an important point to note is that when preparing other local development documents, i.e. not an SCI itself, the authority must also comply with this SCI. You will see that there are two recommendations. One is to adopt the statement, and the other is to delegate to the Director of Planning and Building Control and myself the power so we can make any minor changes if there are any that are necessary. The statement sets out how Cheltenham Borough Council can involve communities within a particular area that may be affected by planning. I'm sure that we would all agree that this is essential to involve our communities wherever possible when it comes to important planning decisions. This statement is compliant with the necessary legal procedures and outlines how the public can expect to be engaged and informed during the planning process. It includes reference to the strategic local plan as well as supplementary planning documents, which are very much in vogue at the moment. It also gives a nod to the increased use of electronic communications as a way of notifying and consulting with our communities. There is no real alternative to having a valid statement of community involvement, and as already mentioned, it is a statutory requirement to have one anyway. The actual statement itself is contained within this agenda and can be found between pages 1123 and 1141, which shows that we've had yet another very busy meeting involving a lot of preparation and homework. I hope that Cabinet colleagues are able to support the adoption of this report And we do have Tracy Birkinshaw, our Director of Planning and Building Control, here to help answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Has any member got any questions or any comments?
Sorry.
No questions, no comments. So can I ask the Cabinet willing to support the recommendations as they're set out in the report? Thank you, that's unanimous. Our next report of the evening is the Local Council Tax Support Scheme. Tracy, I should just say thank you for being here. The Local Council Tax Support Scheme, which is the report of Councillor Jeffreys.
Thank you, Leader. Just a highlight report of the financial year, because before we get into budget setting and a raft of reports coming that way. But colleagues, this report represents the proposals for Cheltenham Council's Local Council Tax Support Scheme for 2026-2027, reaffirming our strong commitment to protecting low-income households. Currently, over 4,240 working-age residents receive help through the scheme, representing more than £4.3 million of support, with over half of those recipients receiving a 100% reduction in their council tax. This is a clear demonstration of this administration's compassion and our continued commitment to ensuring that those most financially vulnerable in our communities, those in need, are not left behind and receive the support they need. There is a tinge of, I suppose, sadness when we move. This could be one of the last few remaining times we do this. We've got a couple more years for LGR, but there's growing concern amongst colleagues in the financial sector that with local government reorganisation, some of these schemes like this, which aren't necessarily compulsory to have 100% support, may get lost. So hopefully we'll be able to continue and champion this kind of compassionate support for financially vulnerable residents as we move forward with local government reorganisation, because I think it's quite an intrinsic and much needed form of support. I'm happy to take any questions, Leader. Thank you.
Has any member wished to comment or ask a question on this report? Councillor Jeffreys, have you anything else you want to say on it? No? I mean, I'm really proud of the fact that this is something that we do, and we've introduced it over a number of years, and it is a significant value. But, you know, everybody has to do it to a level, but we choose as an authority to give the opportunity for 100% to those most in need of that assistance. Councillor Pinniger.
Yeah, I just wanted to outline that if you, many of the people who receive the 100% grant will actually be living in our housing and paying rent on that housing. And if you charge money to people who haven't got money, then you're really making a rod for your own back in collecting it. And we would be spending more on collection and we'd have lower collection rates. It's not as clear cut as we're being generous. We're making sure people can pay their bills because people can't spend money they don't have. And it probably also helps the local economy because they'll have more money to spend locally on the things they need. So I think it's a fantastic policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pinniger. Councillor Jeffreys.
Councillor Pinniger, that's exactly the reason why I think the leader mentioned earlier on about the way we kept this in place. I think during austerity, a lot of councils stripped away that 100% support and found out quite quickly that actually the cost of trying to chase people with debt that haven't got any money is clearly futile and costs more to the public purse. So whilst, yes, we are being generous, I think, but it's right, you know, people haven't got that necessary money. So having 100% support for residents actually is beneficial to the public purse in the long run. So thanks for those comments, Mr. Pinniger. Thank you, Leader.
So if no other member wishes to say anything, could I see a show of hands to approve, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of tonight's papers, and so that leads us on to the member briefing session. So, Councillor Lewis, anything from you this week?
Yes, thank you, Leader. So the Leader and I had a fantastic day out to a building site today, which is not a phrase I ever thought I would be uttering in my very exciting mid-20s. But it was fantastic to celebrate groundbreaking at 320 Swindon Road. It's always a huge challenge to work out where on earth you put housing in a town like Cheltenham. We're landlocked, and while there are many interesting ideas floating around Gloucestershire, it's always a case of trying to find the right sites for the right schemes. And I think 320 Swindon Road, where we're turning a former car park into 24 affordable homes to buy and rent, is one of my favourite schemes that we're delivering at the moment. The Leader even got to have a go on the digger, which he was very excited for. And it was a really lovely day to meet up with the developers, the work they were doing, speak to some of the neighbours. It was a scheme that everyone locally is looking forward to. They're willing to stick through some of the frustrations of living on the edge of a building site, because ultimately it's going to be a real uplift for that little community. It's also very nice to be building something on the site of a former coal merchant, where we are delivering eco-friendly, sustainable homes. It's a bit of a full cycle journey that we've gone on with this development. We're even going to be trying out some ground source heat pumps, which we haven't used on previous schemes in the past because we found they work better for flats than our typical air source approach. So if anybody, the journalists in particular, I know a lot of journalists do watch this recording, fancy having an invite to come and see a ground source heat pump being installed, do let me know. It could be a fantastic family day out.
Councillor Collins.
I was stunned there. I didn't realise you were coming to me next. I'm not going to be able to follow that. I've got nothing to say. Thank you.
Councillor Telford.
Thank you, Leader. I won't talk about what I have been doing, but instead I'll talk about what's about to happen. I think that's more exciting for people. So from this Friday, we'll have the ice rink back in Imperial Gardens, and I'm sure people have been seeing that going up, and that's obviously run by Cheltenham Borough Council with our Marketing Cheltenham, Visit Cheltenham team. I think it's amazing. I love that we do the ice rink every year, and I think it's a brilliant way of bringing people into our town centre and then going and using our hospitality and retail businesses during Christmas. So that'll be running from this Friday until January. But one of the really nice things is we've got multiple different sessions on, so you can book, depending if you have special educational needs, there's certain sessions for people there, there's sessions for younger children, there's going to be student nights, grown-up glides, there's going to be character sessions where various different princesses and superheroes and all sorts for kids to enjoy, which is a really great thing. And I think the most important thing is it's in a shelter, so you don't have to worry about the usual rainy British weather calling off your ice skating. But also this weekend, there'll be the Christmas light switch on at the Pittville Pump Room, and there'll be the Christmas launch party at the Brewery Quarter, which includes a tribute band to K-pop Demon Hunters, which I'm sure will work for some people, myself included. And then also we've got the gift market at the Prom from the 20th to the 23rd, as well as the full Christmas market coming in December. But of all the things that are going to be going on during December, there's so many amazing events, and if people go to the Visit Cheltenham website, they can see it's great what's on guide for what's happening. But one of the things I'd like to point out is that we have 2 pantos this year in both the Everyman's. I was waiting for it. Oh, yes, we do. We'll have Robin Hood and his Merry Men with Tweedy the Clown at the Everyman, and the Cheltenham Playhouse will have Dick Whittington. So there's plenty of stuff to do with your kids and stuff this Christmas. So please come into our town, support all of our shops and our hospitality, and enjoy all the things we have to offer. Thank you.
Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I was really thrilled to have attended our C5 Parish Council Group's annual catch-up last Saturday, and obviously there was quite an important agenda item on the table with regards to community governance review, and it was just really very insightful to have dialogue. We broke up into groups about what those challenges are going to be and what the opportunities may be for parishes. We've got 5 parish councils in Cheltenham, but the rest of the 15 wards in Cheltenham are either completely unparished or partly parish. So yeah, it was some really, really sort of thought-provoking conversations about how important it is as we move through moving into local government reorganisation. Also, it was great that we had members from councillors from Sherdington Parish Council and also Uckington to understand their views also. Then this last entire week, we've had Cheltenham Interfaith Week, and I just want to say a big thank you, not only to the organisers, Cheltenham Interfaith, but especially to Kevin Devani for working with our officer Helen and putting on a great, fantastic week of activities. And thanks to all of the faith and belief groups that opened up their doors so warmly to allow others to better understand and to appreciate. I think it's absolutely important that we have these opportunities to share. And yeah, I really do wish that that is something that is carried on for all the many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atherton. Councillor Baker?
Thank you. Just a few things from me. As we all know, we're indebted to many friends groups around the town, but many parts of the town don't have friends groups. So I'm quite excited now that the Green Space team have set up a new group called Roamers. And essentially, there's a lot of volunteers taken from all parts of the town, and they will go and work in parts of the town which are currently not served by friends groups. So on Friday, we're going down into the moors and doing a lot of work along the River Chelt there. So that's a really exciting innovation, and those forgotten parts of town will now be getting on a rota basis some attention. So that's good. And I'm going to be joining them from 9:30 to 2:30, so I'm going to be knackered. But looking forward to that. I had a great meeting this afternoon. I went to the meeting of the Cheltenham allotment holders, actually, mainly as a listening brief to understand and listen to them about their thoughts about the allotments and so on. We have 900 allotments holders in Cheltenham, and a long waiting list too. So that was we had a very, very good meeting. We've got a great allotment officer now, James, and we're looking forward to bring forward some new initiatives. It is a season of leaves, as we know, and no doubt councillors have been getting comments and complaints about leaves in their street. The teams are working really hard. I'm sure you've seen them out and about. There's a lot of leaves to be picked up. As ever, the problem areas are streets which are parked up during the day. And this is where we have to work and liaise with GCC, it's the Highways Authority, to get parking zones closed for a few hours to enable the teams to go in. So, unfortunately, it does take a lot longer, but many streets are looking quite slushy at the moment. And finally, I'm going to a conference on Thursday with officers in Sheffield to do with cemeteries and crematoria. And I think that's going to be actually really interesting and informative. At the moment, we do have problems in terms of competition from direct cremations and so on. So it's going to be interesting to hear what thoughts and ideas are out there on what we can bring back and introduce in Cheltenham to revigorate perhaps our service there. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Pinniger?
Well, my main piece of news is obviously the Mock COP30 conference that we held in this chamber with 61 school children from, I think, around about 12 schools. And it was run in the format of the COP. And the children, it was children-led, so they spoke up for their countries. They'd studied the politics of the countries and also the climate vulnerability of the countries. We had Pakistan saying I think 26 million people had been displaced by the floods in 2022, and there were 9 million extra people in Dakar now, and there were food shortages. And then on the flip side, we had the USA saying that it possibly was all a hoax, and that we should just drill for oil and work on improving the quality of life of people. So that was the majority of Cheltenham high schools, private and public. I just wanted to say that the work's so important for both climate, but also to give the next generation experiences that make them feel included in democracy and capable of taking part in local, national, continental and global processes to change the world for the better. And it was a wonderful day And it wasn't just the kids. I also learnt a lot about the way the COP runs. I wanted to thank everybody involved, including Cecily Etherington of the Interclimate Network, whose mission is to inspire young people across the UK to lead, advocate for and take action on climate change. The officers, obviously, and I think it was thoroughly enjoyed by everybody. The one thing that's coming up that I wanted to mention is that the Climate Risk and Vulnerability Assessment, the Climate Leadership Gloucestershire team are hoping to get that out at the end of the COP30 conference to sort of continue the conversation. So that should be coming to Cabinet and Council soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pinniger. Councillor Jeffries.
Nothing at this time, Leader. Thank you.
And there's nothing from me. I think I said everything I needed to say yesterday in my leader briefings. So that takes us on to decisions of Cabinet. There were two this month that we made. And in the absence of Councillor Clucas, who made one of the decisions, which was to award the contract to Gloucestershire Action for Refugees and Asylum Seekers, Gareth. And what she said was, support services for asylum seekers and refugees is extremely important. It enables advice, assistance and provides accredited help for those who have lost so much. The initial contract was awarded to Afghanistan and Central Asian Association on the basis that that organisation fulfilled all of the requirements for accreditation for the contract. However, that was not shown to be the case. A and CAA failed to have sufficient accreditation to meet the requirement of the contract, and therefore a second organisation also failed to meet the requirements. Gareth, however, met all of the requirements and is the only supplier which did. The contract has therefore been awarded to Gareth, which will enable the work with the Gloucester City Council to continue and what they're doing. So the contract commences on the 1st of September and will continue until the 31st of March 2028. And the other decision this month was by Councillor Telford.
Thank you, Leader. This was a decision to award the Cheltenham Playhouse Theatre with a second grant of £25,000, bringing our total council support to £50,000 this year. Obviously, they've been facing some significant financial pressures, and the new team behind the Playhouse are really good at what they're doing, and I'm very confident that they're coming out of this now to the other side. They've taken over a business, well, an organisation, a non-profit that was a charity that was in real financial dire straits, and they've brought it out the other side from, I believe they referred to it as surviving before, and now they think they're going to be in the thriving point, which is really good. They've hit their 100k target, thanks in part to the 50,000 from the council. And I think that's a really important thing for such a well-loved community organisation to be able to support them in the ways we have. I'm really looking forward to seeing all of the different ways, all the different shows they're going to be having on there and how they support our communities. Obviously, a shout out to the pantomime that they'll have going on. But also, it's worth saying, they are in our building, so it's really important to support the organisation because they are running it for us, they are maintaining it for us, and if they weren't there, then the building might fall into disrepair, which would cost the council and our taxpayers a lot more money in the long run than this would. And I think it's really important that we support them and we support our buildings and do that for the long run, because it's an organisation I think we want to continue long after LGR's got rid of us. Thank you.
So section 8 is any other item that I as leader determined to be urgent and requires a decision. There are none, and therefore